Bonacci today, and we're just going to be asking some questions, some more general questions, some more like philosophical, universal questions, and maybe some more specific questions. So we'll just go ahead and get into it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it was great in Sacramento yesterday. We did the Gospel of the Stars presentation. So that was the 2nd of November, so the Day of the Dead, I think. That would be in the Mexican calendar after Halloween. Very significant cross-quarter day, but all this table was there yesterday and a few more, and that was really good because what we learned was the science of the ecliptic, and that's essentially what every philosophy and theology is based on. The science of the ecliptic. So we went really deep in that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was, you talk a lot about overarching mythologies, how different gods relate to other gods. You know, how Mithra is Ishtar and things like that. And I asked you yesterday, and I want to ask you again about some of the ancient cultures. When they would talk about these gods, they spoke about them as if they had seen them, and as if they had been to those realms where those gods had existed. What is your take on? Do you think there are specific gods that exist within the ethereal realms or astral realms? And do you think there are some gods that perhaps are more mythologically based? Do you think they're all real? Do you think one culture had it right? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so between the East and the West, there's always an understanding and a teaching that from the monad there are multiple realms and multiple expansions, or emanations as the Neoplatonists call it. So in our Western school, I teach mostly Neoplatonism. Porphyry, Iamblichus, Sallustius and Macrobius actually spoke about this. They taught about the emanations from the monad. It emanates. So the monad doesn't participate in creation, although it's the source of creation. The dyad does. And then there's a triad, a tetrad, the ogdoad, the ennead. Goes on and on, right? God and his expansions. But also this is the same with the realms. So in the East, they call it expansions. In Neoplatonism, it's emanations. So when Krishna expands, Krishna is the monad. And with the monad comes the realm. So Krishna is always in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the monad's realm. Vishnu is in Vaikuntha. That's the dyad's world, you could say. Not specifically, and don't quote me on this, but this is how the expansions work. And then there's the Brahmajyoti, the kingdom of Brahma, the creator of this vibratory world. Brahma means to vibrate. So I'm just emphasizing that because if you miss these nuances, you'll never reach who these gods are. You know, you'll never really understand where these gods are, and who, you know, when they spoke about Zeus, you know, the Greeks would call him the god of the gods, right? Well, as I teach in astrotheology, Jupiter Zeus is Jesus. Thank you, Christians, corporate Christians, for keeping the name of Zeus, god of gods in the Greek system, whereas you call him King of Kings, King of the Jews. So it's the same epithet, it's the same title. Jesus is actually Zeus. So when they talk about this great benefic God who, you know, bestows titles and gifts to all of his devotees, well, it's the same thing with Jesus. So all of these named gods, they are not the monad.
a lot of Greco-Roman gods, you think?
Yeah, they're always the dyad and onward, right? So, getting back to Macrobius and Sallustius. Sallustius, one of the Neoplatonists, he wrote a book about the kingdoms and God and the realms. And he spoke about dominions, principalities, thrones. What other words? But the realms, there are many, and I think there's about 22 or 24 realms, starting from the throne of God, the monad. So, there's a whole realm called dominion, principalities. In fact, I might look it up while I'm on here, because I really want to be specific about this and how it works, because the kingdoms are the same and the gods therein. So they're all octaves of each other as they expand. So in our world...
When you say octaves, sorry, but when you say octaves, do you mean literally sound, or do you mean like different octaves? Octaves in every possible way you can perceive octaves. Musically, colour, it's a cycle, right? It's a complete cycle, an octave, that's what it denotes. So when you're in one octave, you're in one realm. The next octave, for instance, you have 7 chakras in you. That's an octave. And they're vibrating on different levels, correct? The chakras vibrate on...
Yes, provably.
Yeah,
and we can
provably, exactly.
I can prove that very simply if you want to get to that. But that octave, that's your physical body, that's your rainbow serpent, that's your physical body's octave. But there's an octave above. There's another 7 chakras above. That's another octave, and there's another 7 below. You see? So we sort of extend out infinitely, really. And also your longitudinal plane, which is radiating from your heart, that also is the plane of inertia of your torus field. But that torus field might be, I think, about 35 feet, in circumference. But that's only one of them. And then there's another one, bigger and outside of that, in which you are in. And then there's another one, and another one. It's like the Russian dolls, I don't know whether it's known if it's infinite, but that's how it works. Yeah. So I'll just finish off though with this: that the gods that we are recognizing in our octave of this solar system, they are the 7 of the 7 days of the week, which is an octave. Sunday, the sun. Monday, the moon. Tuesday, Mars. Tyr. Wednesday, Woden. Mercury. Thursday is Jupiter, Zeus. Jesus Day. Friday, well, that's Freya or Venus. Saturn Day, that's a no-brainer. So we've done the 7 planets. Those are it. That's our octave. So formally, if you knew which planet was the one ruling your birth chart, well, you would offer libations and offerings and sacrifices to that god. You wouldn't, so for instance, the ruler of my chart is Jupiter. So I don't go to the altar of Venus on Friday and sit there and ask blessings and everything. No, I go Thursday. I'm a Thursday worshipper. And that's how they used to do it. Not that you would ignore the sun on Sunday and you'd say, Sunday, doesn't serve me, it's boring, so I'm waiting for Thursday. That's my Sabbath. No, so that's how it used to work. You would take care of all the gods because you want all of their frequencies in your life to bless you. But there's one specific frequency that you must pay extra devotion to. That's why you have to know what is the ruler of your chart.
The ancients used to believe that things like the sun and the moon and pretty much all forms of energy were conscious. And I think the Hindus said that the sun and the moon were essentially, there were gods that would rule over these entities, and they would switch out after so many periods. Do you know anything about those types of mythologies? And do you buy into that, or do you think it's more just mythological?
No. This is in all mythologies. This is in all teachings. The sun is Michael the archangel. according to the Kabbalistic Jews. To the Hindus, it's Indra. Okay? And so, and soul, that's why we call it solar, because it has a soul. It's intelligent. It's a conscious being. It's many beings. I think it's 9 archangels that make 9 angels that make the body of the sun with 1 archangel, Michael. Right. So all of these astrological planets that are condemned by the churchgoers, Saturn, Jupiter, Zeus, and Mars. These are in the scriptures. You know, in Proto-Celtic, the name of Mars was Jesus. How more bland, how more blatant do you need it to be? So here we are in Ireland thousands of years ago, and we're calling Mars, red planet Mars, Jesus. Well, that's Jesus. Because Mars is an archetype of Jesus, and then Jupiter Zeus, is another archetype of Jesus. Then the sun is also an archetype of Jesus, because it's the whole body of Jesus. It's the demiurge, it's a 7-fold body. Those 7 planets are the 7 chakras in you. They're the same. And so as you resonate with them and you send them libations and offerings to their frequency, so they tune your frequency. So this is the Mars, for instance, gives you courage to speak. This is Jupiter, that's Saturn. Funnily, we call this the crown chakra. Well, that's Kronos. So there's the crown is from Saturn. You see, the moon is down the bottom, the red chakra. Mercury is the orange. Venus is the yellow, and the sun is in the heart, green chakra. These correspond exactly to the 7 in the heavens. So if you want a healthy, subtle body, we need to be devoted to them. It's not star worship or sun worship. It's acknowledging their vital importance, that the prime creator, the monad, placed them as our servants. The Babylonians used to call the sun Shamash, the servant. So they'd wake in the morning and they'd put their palms up to the servant, and they would, you know, connect with the sun with their palms, and by looking at the sun, because to make that connection is vital, because he's serving us, you know. And so when we acknowledge the sun in our lives, then we turn around and serve it, and it is the Saviour. And it fulfills the scripture where it says, no one goes to the Father except through me. Because the sun is that portal. Ancient Christians knew this. They were called Heliognostics, knowers of the sun. And they knew that it was the portal, hole in the sky. You see, people think it's a sphere. It's not a sphere, it's a hole. It's a holy hole. And it's a wormhole. Okay? And we know what wormholes are for, right? To travel to other dimensions. Well, that's why Jesus says no one goes to the Father except through me. You have to go through the Son. S-O-N-S-U-N. And this is it's in the Bible. This teaching is clearly blatantly in the Bible. But it can't come out and express itself, because the teachers of the Bible are all corporate and have an agenda to stop the process of Christian ascension, which is taught in the Bible, how we can, you know, lift up the Son of Man, as Jesus said. Lift up the Son of Man like Moses did in the wilderness if you want to be born again. The Son of Man is talking about lifting up the Chrism, the son of manna, because manna is what they called the Chrism. God's people in the wilderness ate the Chrism. They ate the manna in the wilderness, and they survived. It's because they paid their tithes and returned the manna, rather than using the cerebrospinal fluids in a harmful way to their own body. They would save them. So they would send their children to seminaries to learn about semen and what uses it could be for, other than making more procreating. It has another use, and that use is taught in the Christian seminaries. So young men were sent there, weren't they? because they're the ones who have that, not young women. But why they did that was to teach them how to transmute it, how to use it, because it's a golden substance, a life-giving substance. So that story is in the Bible. And you'll be surprised that every place where it is, it's incredible. It's in Revelation, where it talks about the 7 seals. And only the Lamb and the Lion were worthy to open the 7 seals. Well, the Lamb is the crown chakra, because that's where Aries is, the Lamb of God. And the Lion is the green lion, the lion heart, the lion of the tribe of Judah. So that's why the Bible speaks of all these scary animals. Oh, the lamb and the lion. Those animals were worthy to open the seals. Well, the 7 seals are the 7 chakras. You know. And that's why they are worthy, because the heart chakra is your way into the kingdom of God. And the crown chakra is your way up to the kingdom of God. You've got to go up in consciousness levels.
I have so many questions. Where to even start? But one thing I do want to get us to address is, I would like to hear you speak more about, is this idea that, for instance, in Hinduism in particular, I'm not as familiar with some of the other mythologies, but I know in Hinduism in particular, there was a big point in addressing not only the physical realm, but the physical realm in relation to the metaphysical realm, the spiritual realm. And they believed that those places were real, just as real as the physical realm. I'm wondering, because it seems like there is a lot of crossover between these mythologies. It seems like there is there's also some discrepancies. Is it that the other cultures were going into other astral realms? Or is it that these are just like mythologically based stories from the original source stories of the realms that people were going into? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, every culture has their stories, you know, of how one ascended masters turn up, you know, Buddha meditating under a tree, and Jesus in the wilderness. And in Bhagavad Gita, it actually says, or not in Bhagavad Gita, sorry, but in one of the treatises of one of the very ancient Hindu scriptures about Bhagavad Gita, it says, as the Jews teach, don't consider our works, our sacred books, to be literal. And it says that the reason it is written in such a way to appear historically is because mundane minds have to begin from that model. You know, they need a literal story. You know, literally, Buddha had to exist. You know, they have to follow a man who was historically called Jesus. It explains in their text. It warns them, just as the Jews warn about their Torah, their Bible. Don't take it literally. The moment you do, you've lost all sense of what it's trying to talk about. So. You have to remind me of the last bit of your question. Sorry.
It seems as though when the ancients, they would talk about these places as if they were real. We spoke yesterday about these DMT trips, and there are people nowadays saying that they go to similar realms or they see similar beings to what the ancients saw. How much of these beings and realms do you think are real, and how much are mythologically based?
You know, they're real. Very real, yes. Like dreams. So that's what I was getting to. That's why I needed you to ask that question again. It says there that the reason it's written in such a way is that so that people of a mundane mentality will perceive them in such a way, whereas people of a higher mentality will perceive them differently. But they are never historical. But then again, all those things that they see, they're true. They're just not historical. Because the way the universe works is it's timeless. The illusion of time, or the time-space continuum, is a temporal transient and unstable illusion. Right? So it's an electrical world. It's all electrical. And everything electrical decays. That's the nature of electricity. Everything magnetic endures forever. Because electricity is a transverse wave and it has to diminish. It's a transverse energy and magnetism. So when people go into meditation, they go into these realms and they come back with stories and they call it Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, all of these classics, the Bible, Zendavesta, whatever, everybody's got their sacred books. They took entheogens or naturally went into those realms and saw those archetypes. They saw Jesus. I get people saying, oh, I saw Jesus. I did see Jesus, so he's real. And my reply would be, yeah, that's what I say. He is real and true. That's why I'm a follower of Jesus, but he's not historical. And the fact that you saw him yesterday, or whenever it was, 10 years ago, when you were in danger and he appeared and saved you, proves that he's not in the Bible as an historical individual, because he was there 2,000 years removed from when the Bible said he was historical. So it's timeless. It's a timeless, archetypal figure that you're talking about when you're speaking about Jesus and the other realms. So when Bhagavad Gita makes it appear that the war of Mahabharata happened literally, well, never in this dimension, but in the transcendent dimensions. Yes. Right? So people, when it talks about in the scriptures that people saw Jesus, it's not a literal seeing Jesus, it's seeing them in this altered state. So the Bible has a lot of that in it as well. So, and you'll find that, there are discrepancies between the mythologies, like you said, but there's too many similarities to write them off. It's just, there's too many similarities. They're all the same story. I've proven this time and time again in countless presentations. And they're all different presentations with different details, so there's an infinity, wealth of information just in my work alone, showing how Krishna is Christ, is Buddha, is Hercules, is Osiris, is Viracocha, is every other hero you could possibly name.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and the Apostle Paul actually wrote about this when he said he went to the third heaven and he saw things that are unspeakable to speak. That's a transcendent state. That's the Christ consciousness that you are. You see, when you're in your carnal mind, the lower mind, you act accordingly. You eat and drink, buy and sell, and, be jolly and live like there's no tomorrow. I forgot my thought again. But
That's great.
Anyway, you had a question.
No, yeah, I do think there is something to these realms and places and beings that people are seeing. I don't know what specifically to ask on it, but I know, for instance, with my experience drinking ayahuasca, I saw different Vedic gods, some of which I had never even seen before. And when people would draw these out, and they're identical to what I saw. I'm not the only person. There are thousands of people who have said the same thing. I know you had an interview with Sean Stone, and you had mentioned that behind you was Krishna and Radharani, and you said that it looks like a DMT trip.
Yeah, I did too, didn't I? Very cheeky. Was that on that interview?
Yeah. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more on that.
Hare Krishnas won't appreciate that. Yeah, but it is. It is. It's you look at all the paintings of Krishna and Radharani. That's all from a dimethyltryptamine experience.
Why wouldn't the Hare Krishnas like that comment? They don't.
Oh,
think
just
it's-
joking,
Oh,
just
okay.
a tongue-in-cheek, you know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty cheeky because he's got a pretty big channel, you know, to say that. But you know, they would probably just say no. It's a true transcendent state. They wouldn't associate it with taking DMT. But I've had it, and you've had it.
Isn't it the same thing?
It
though,
is.
Essentially,
It
it's
is.
just helping you get to that state.
Absolutely.
Without meditation.
That's it. Yeah. That's why alcohol is consumed, and cannabis and tobacco, because people, every cup of tea you have, you know, chamomile, whatever, it's going to alter your consciousness. You eat an apple, it's going to alter your consciousness. Whatever you put in your mouth will absolutely transform your consciousness. You have to be very careful. That's why animals are not allowed in the Neoplatonist school, and that's why Pythagoras and Plato, they all condemned the flesh eating for ascension process. So, because it does, it alters your consciousness, and the animal consciousness does not permit the Christ consciousness because it's a unilateral. It's not a what would you call it? By consciousness system like we have. You know, we are aware of ourselves, aren't we? Well, animals are not. You know, so if you eat that consciousness, it's going to animalize you. It won't spiritualize you. Spirituality is at the opposite end. And ascending.
Another question I've been thinking a lot too about all this is, you've spoken about this before, but I was wondering if you could get into more of the idea behind reincarnation. And so, for instance, you know, the Hindus believe that if you had bad karma, you could be reincarnated as like a cockroach or some other undesirable animal. What's the difference between being reincarnated as like a cockroach versus going to the hellish realms? I'm not exactly sure how that's working out.
There's hell in the animal kingdom, there's hell in the human kingdom, there's hell in the plant kingdom, there's hell in the mineral kingdom. It's all about dissolving and dissolution. That's what hell is. So when people are going through hell, they are being dissolved of their goodness, I guess, and they're getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and then they can go back the other way, you know, if that opportunity is available. But yes, if you do not have soul force when you die to ascend this state that you're in now, currently, next time you come back, well, you won't. You may have to be forced to go. Maurice Cottrell, by the way, a scientist from Ireland, he's got a few good videos on this, and he explains scientifically how reincarnation works, and how if you don't have enough soul force, you might come back as like a few insects, or a few birds, or a dog, or a cat, because they don't have as much soul force. And it's like, he calls it the accumulation of magnetic power, you know, and that's what your soul force is. So if you don't, for instance, take the work seriously, for instance, and you neglect your ascension process, well, that'll weaken, it'll diminish, and you know, other things will distract you, and your energy, you won't have integrity, and you'll lose the way. This is spoken of all the time, you know. That's why Led Zeppelin wrote about Stairway to Heaven. You know, she's buying a Stairway to Heaven, because you got to buy that stuff. You got to do some work, man. You can't just think, oh, I want to go to heaven, and you know, oh, it's going to happen. I'll just sit back and you know, drink tea and wait for it to happen. Like Christians are waiting for Jesus to return to save them. You save yourself. So it's about buying currency and soul force. The Neoplatonists also spoke about how devotion strengthens the soul. And that's what a sun is, it's a soul. And you are a soul as well, you know. You're a body with a soul. That means you've got a sun in you. And that sun, that's magnetism. The sun only is magnetic. True magnetic source in the whole solar system. Only the sun. Because it pulses. It pulsates. Pierluigi Gina taught that. He says the sun has a heart in it, which beats at the same rate as the human heart. He studied the heart for 30 years. He was a colleague of Marconi. He also talks about the stationary Earth and proves that the Earth is stationary. He says that the stars are holes in the sky, including the sun. They're holes. That's why I said before that it is a holy hole, a wormhole. And so, yeah, those good works that we do, they strengthen the soul. You've heard about selling your soul, right? Assigned and sell your soul over to the devil.
Because you no longer have a choice, essentially, in what you're doing, right? You're controlled by somebody else.
Whatever happens to it, wherever you go, it's up to that contract. It's not up to you anymore. You've got no control over it. You've signed it over. That's why you never do that. That's what the birth certificate name is all about, to steal that soul from you, but they won't. It can't. It won't work. So when you have the integrity and increase that magnetism in you, which is the sun in you is your heart, by the way. That's where the sun is. It's in your heart. And when you do that, you strengthen your force field, your Taurus field. We do have a force field. We're protected. You know, every day we're protected by angelic beings who come in and out of our Taurus field. And we invite them in through prayer. You know, you invite angels into your life, and they come into your Taurus field, and they feed off of it, and they feed you. They're not parasitic. They help. Parasites take that off you. So, yeah, that's essentially why we're here, to grow what we have. Jesus spoke about the talents, you know, he gave one servant 3 talents, the other one 2, the other one 1. The one that was blessed was the one that increased, invested the talents and made double, and he was blessed, he went into the kingdom. So that's speaking about us as well. We've got so much soul force. You see some people, they haven't got much soul force. Like this, they're not motivated to do much, are they? You know, they just like to sit and drink tea and have a few biscuits. You know, and they don't have any soul force. They don't stand for, oh, I'm going to go and protest, or I'm going to do a great work. They're just happy just to sit there. They haven't got soul force. And then you get people who, you know, they want to start businesses and promote and encourage other people, they're leaders, you know, they've got all this drive. That's one form of soul force. But there's soul force for doing good, not for being successful in business. There's just to be good. You know? That's a soul force. So a lot of people don't have that. They don't have soul force for doing good. So they go around stealing, cheating, hurting, doing all the wrong things, and staying in a condition of hell. So to answer your question, you know, about reincarnating, coming back as crickets and things like that, that's absolutely real. This is the way the universe works. And for some people, they've been around doing loops and loops and loops, and they keep signing up for more cycles of necessity because they keep, you know, signing up for stuff. You know, like, I don't know, I want to be famous. I want to climb a corporate ladder. These things don't get you ascending. They just keep you signing up. How to do it is to be of the world, but to be in the world, but not of the world, and to conquer the world and its passions and desires. Doesn't mean you're boring and no passions, you know. Oh, can't eat, can't have sex, you know. You can't do all these nice things. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Everything is much nicer when we stop and control our lustful nature and our carnal mind. And, you know, the way the world practices things, eating and drinking, they're gluttons and drunkards. Sexuality, they're promiscuous. Everything they do exceedingly and badly. Whereas all those things are great. Food's great. Last time I checked, drinking was good, you know, and sex still feels good every time you do it. Funny about that. So these are all gifts, you know, for the human body to be blessed, to be wealthy, to be rich, to transcend. And so, how do we use them? You know, if I gave you a knife, that knife has a lot of potential. You can kill someone with that knife, or you can make sandwiches for people and feed the poor. So, that's up to you. You know, it's up to us how we use sex, because it's like a knife. It's two-edged. It's very dangerous, sex. Very, very dangerous when you indulge in it in a way without thinking. and without, like loyalty and integrity, like to partners. Food. Do you have a yum yum diet? That's what I think is the Western diet. Yum yum. Oh, that looks yummy. I'll get some of that. It's called a yum yum diet. But rather than thinking about, properly about nutrition and whether it's going to not only make their bodies look beautiful and healthy, but make them spiritually happy as well. Because how can you be spiritually happy if you go and get, organic eggs at Safeway, and then you go on the website and you realise that those organic free-range eggs are actually chickens in dark sheds, but they're free range because they're not in individual cages, so they call them free range. So there's 10 in a cage, free range, right? How can you be spiritually healthy? You're having scrambled eggs at your cafe there, and you haven't asked where these eggs come from. You're actually going to eat that trauma. It's not going to make you spiritually happy. So why do you see all these people depressed and unhappy and everything? Because they've got, there's a bit of steak from yesterday. That cow was murdered. It was traumatised viciously. We didn't know that because we didn't see it. Here's a bit of chicken here. It had its head cut off and was running around. And then, to kill it, I had to beat it to death. And that was traumatised. And then you've got some fish that was... you've got egg that was... chickens were persecuted. And all of this harms you. So, again... we have to look at what we're doing to our torso field, because people are getting sick quickly now. People are really, really sick, and they're getting old and more depressed, and there's more unusual diseases. Fair enough, there's, the world has changed. There's pulse weapons now and all kinds of chemtrails and additives to the food that are not good. So, but this is why you have to be very cautious, very careful to ask, what are you eating? Many of these nice organic things, they have on the back natural flavour. I'll never buy anything with natural flavour, because that can be actually little particles of aborted baby fetus that was started as a culture or whatever to grow, certain flavours and whatever, and they made a natural flavour out of it, and it is natural. But do you really want to be having someone else's baby fetus in your natural flavour coconut milk? Well, this is how things are creeping in and making us sick. Yeah, and so people are not asking, they're not inquiring about what's going on in the temple. I often talk a lot about health. I've always had. Health has always been a thing, because without it, the body, looking after the body and health, you will never have, emotional stability. You'll never have mental clarity. You'll never have holistic health. You might look good in the gym. You see these guys that look good in the gym, but I can see that they're hurting themselves. Because they've got like bloodshot eyes. I can see they're stressing themselves. You shouldn't be working in the gym. We should be doing natural exercise. You can get much musclier by doing things naturally. You see people jogging. I would never jog anywhere with shoes on. What a waste of recharging your magnetic field by taking the soles of the sole of your feet, the rubber soles of your shoes, get rid of them and connect with the earth, because that's how we were designed. We weren't made with any glasses or shoes, or whatever. So they're killing themselves, and you can see they're red in the face, they're sweating all over. You can see these red faces. That's toxins, because it's circulating in their blood. They're not discharging them through their bare feet. They've got these Nike runners on and they're running down the road with runners. You don't do that. You don't run with runners. You walk with no shoes and you run with no shoes. That's what I do every day. I can walk on the stones. I don't have to, ouch, it's just donk like I've got shoes on, because I've conditioned my body and my feet. And so,
you were talking about health.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I have got here is Sallustius, I was mentioning before, on the gods.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and he was one of the great Neoplatonists toward the 4th, 5th century, at the latter end of Neoplatonism, before they, or just after they murdered Hypatia and destroyed the Neoplatonist Alexandrian library, and then they, Justinian by edict in 527 shut down all the Neoplatonic academies. And now all we've got in our institutes is materialist Aristotle, the student of Plato. Yeah, these are done. Thanks, man. There you go. Hey, I wouldn't mind another one of those mockers, actually. But so what I'm trying to pull up here is Sallustius, one of the latter Neoplatonists who speaks on the gods. I would recommend for everyone, especially from the Western culture, to read these Neoplatonists when they speak about the gods. Especially this one of Sallustius. So let's have a look. Well, what I was going to bring up was how the kingdoms emanate. Okay? So he taught that there are higher realms and higher beings as you go closer and closer to source. So maybe I'll just leave it at that, but I had to get that in to check out that book, that work on the gods by Sallustius. And so, it's a way for us in our Western culture to understand, how the world is made. The Jews talk about it, the 10 Sephiroth, the 10 spheres of our flat Earth cosmology. There are 10, concentric spheres around and above the Earth. There's always this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or more levels to get to the gross realms of the Earth here where we live. It's the grossest. And there's a whole series of dissensions of states, higher states of existence. And then as you go down more and more and more. And that's the same with the Golden Age. It's the highest state of being. And then there's the Silver Age. Then there's the Copper Age, the Bronze. Then the Iron Age. These are all different states, you see. So they spoke about this, how you lose consciousness. In the Golden Age, you have 100% consciousness. In the Silver Age, it's 75%. In the Bronze Age, you have 50%. And now in the Iron Age, it's 25%. So everything is like this. That things come from a pure source and then go out to the grossest expression and fulfillment, and then return back to purity, perfected and better and improved. It's like this. You've got a computer, it's full of files, but the files don't make a full hard drive any heavier than an empty hard drive, and yet it's full. It's full of information. So if you when you reboot your computer, it's like a Big Bang. They say the Big Bang created the universe out of nothing. What they're trying to tell you is that it created the universe out of everything. Because when I open that file that makes that picture there, had all of the information, had everything required to produce that picture. Therefore, how the universe was made it was made from something, from a source that had everything it needed to make the universe. So the Big Bang happened from nothing. So if we use that illustration of our bodies, you have a spirit, a soul, and a body, and a computer has a file, RAM, and a screen. Well, then you'll understand how everything works. You reboot your computer every day so you can improve your files. You want to make improvements on it. and then you turn the computer off, and you trust that when you come back tomorrow and you resurrect that file, reincarnate, you trust that no viruses would have corrupted it. The file is in good condition, and you're going to be able to access it because you want to improve it. So when you're born, you're rebooted or reincarnated into the world. That's a perfect opportunity, and the only opportunity you get to improve, because you can't do it when you go back, when you die, you go back to course. You can't, there's no work. Now's the time for work. So your David here that I see today, tomorrow's going to be marginally better. And then as you go, it'll be better and better and better, and you're going to bring something back. More soul, more currency, more talents, more denarii, more gifts, more wisdom, more love. Because that's what the parables are telling us. You've been given stuff. Remember the person of, some people have a weak body force and they're very weak, and some men are just everything just about strength, they're really strong and they emanate a strong vibe, right? Because why? Because, well, astrologically they have, certain frequencies and they're healthy, astrologically, or genetically even. Okay, whereas this guy, poor guy over here, he's been sick all his life. He's been hospitalised. He's walking around like this, like he can't even breathe. He's so weak, And that's the same with moral force. Some people have no moral force, no ethics, none at all. They will steal from their mother. Yeah, they're waiting for their mother to die. Actually, they're probably poisoning their mother every day because they want their $50,000. And they'll do it. They'll kill their parents. Because they didn't come into this world with a lot of soul force. And there's other people that you see that are doing so many good works in private. Not these people with these big charities, we just gave $1 million to our charity. It goes back into their own pockets. That's not good works. Like Jesus said, when you give, do not, let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. But most people can't resist. Oh, I'm giving this poor man some money. They want to be seen. Just don't worry about being seen. Do it in private, where only your Creator can see. And there are people that have so much soul force that that's all they do. They go around looking after people, helping people. They're always doing good things. That's because it's a good soul. It's natural if you've got a good soul. So there's different, magnetic forces that we've been given. Some people have a lot of sexual force. They're addicted. Well, they have to have a lot of sex. Other people are just not so interested. Once a month, whenever it happens, because that's how much force they've got for that particular area of their life.
Do things like being addicted to sex and like being addicted to working out and these astrological energetic influences, do those come from having done those things in past lives, or do those come from not having done those things, like a pushback, like you didn't do that in your previous life, so now it's giving you the energy to do it in this life?
A bit of both, actually, yeah. You can see it in the chart. You can see where some people have come back to do certain karmic things, especially where the planets are retrograding. So if you've got a Saturn in the 6th house, retrograding, well, retrograding means return in my way of looking at it. You've returned to get this right. It doesn't mean you didn't do any of that work in the past life. It's suggesting that you didn't do it well enough. But we absolutely do bring all of this you've got here today now. That's all from your current file in the condition that it is in counter space right now. So for instance, if I show you my file and say, oh look, I'm working on this book. I've been writing it for 6 months and it'll be finished in 12 months. Well, it's not finished. That's how it is now. So this is how you are now, and that's how the file is as well. Because this can't change what's in the file unless you alter it. So I know what you're like in heaven because I know what you're like here. It's the same person. Malkuth to Ketha. You came from Ketha to Malkuth. And from Ketha, that's who you are right here. I can tell exactly how good you are and how devoted to the gods and whatever. And the goodness through your eyes. Like Virgil said, the eyes are the window to the soul. And the face is the countenance of the soul. You see, so you just have to look at people's faces and you know whether you can trust them sometimes. Other times you get tricked, of course, but usually right? So, as I said, tomorrow you'll increase in your goodness and in your value, because you don't want to return back to... You wouldn't want to go to India with American dollars, right? You want to go there with rupees. You have to change, you have to use their currency in their realm, right? So it'd be awful if you only had dollars and no one wanted to change your currency. You couldn't get anything to eat. Same thing was when you die, you're going to another realm. It's a spiritual realm, it's a counter-spatial realm. So when you turn your computer off, you hope there's no Trojans and viruses that are going to spoil it, because you're going to go to sleep and work on it tomorrow, and you want it to come resurrected, reboot it, as you remember you left it, and then improve every day. And it feels good when you're improving your files, doesn't it? For instance, if you're a book writer and you depend on the income, it's your stipend from publishing books and writing books, you feel good when you've done a chapter. Oh, I finished my 4th chapter, I work on my 5th chapter, love tomorrow, you know? And that's, don't you feel good by doing the work of the Lord? The lard, the oil, the chrism, the charisma? Because that's what doing the work of the Lord is. The Lord is lard. Thank you, Thomas. Reverend Thomas Taylor, thank you. 1820 in England, in Birmingham. He explained the etymology of Lord. It's lard. The lard is the oil, a symbol of Christianity, because it's the oil of the chrism that gives you charisma, that improves your file. How good do you feel when you know you're doing things well, the right way? I feel great when I know I've done something good. I feel really bad when I've done something bad. I lose health when I lose my temper or something, or say something nasty to someone. I don't get away with it scot-free. I just curse that guy and call him an idiot. I don't get any happiness out of that at all. You might get a satisfaction out of that, an evil kind of a satisfaction, but you can never feel.
How do people learn to distinguish that, though? Because I do feel like there are murky areas of life. For instance, like, if somebody wants to speak out, but they have trouble speaking out, and they have something important to say, but they get nervous before they say it. How do we tell the difference between being nervous maybe because we shouldn't say something, and being nervous because maybe we need to push ourselves forward in order to grow? Because it seems like there are things where we have to do something painful in order to get something good in return. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, sometimes that's happening. It happened to me, it keeps happening all the time. I've learned some amazing lessons in my life recently, because I've had agony and pain, health, emotions, mental. You know, I went through quite a bit in the last couple of years. I've shared this with the world in my YouTube channel, so I don't need to share it right now. But yeah, it brought me to here, where I am now healthy, peaceful. I might not look healthy right now because I didn't sleep last night because of the presentation, and the night before I didn't sleep because I was nervous about the presentation, and the incident that happened 3 weeks ago, and I lost a lot of weight. I'm healthy. I know I'm healthy, and what I am is peaceful, because I dealt with the parasites and the entities associated with parasites. I eliminated those, did a lot of work on myself, went through the agony, transmuted everything. Now what I've got is something of substance, something that makes me happy that I've come to this point.
Why do you think our bodies do things like make us nervous before we're about to give a presentation on such of the beautiful knowledge that you delivered to us the other day? I mean, it seems sort of counterintuitive in a sense. I mean, it makes sense that we have to go through these things, but why do you think we have this sort of blocks when we're doing good things?
The reasons would be varied and many, David, because some are you forgot the lesson in the past life. For instance, I obviously forgot in this life not to join a church, and yet I went and joined the Jehovah's Witnesses, a corporate, Rockefeller, Rothschild funded, Morgan JP funded Christian church with a whole bunch of mind-controlled dupes that think they're serving God. I went through that for 30 years. You should have seen me knocking on the doors. I was doing it in French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, using all my languages to serve in congregations of Portuguese, French, Spanish. I served in all of these different languages because I had the gift of languages, so I served God, and I'd go to, find all the Portuguese addresses in the phone book, and we'd go and visit the Angolans and the Mozambicans and the Brazilians who speak Portuguese, and I'd be so zealous, etc. The pain as well that came from going through that fictional path brought me to this. Now I'm free of churches, and I say that churches are like a tunnel. You go into a tunnel to get the hell out of it, not to stay there. Oh, yeah, I'm going to stay in this tunnel. Here comes a truck. You don't do that. That's what churches are for, to get out of them. Get in and get out. So obviously, I forgot to learn that lesson, but I learnt it in this life, and I'll take it to the next life. Whereas many of the people I used to preach to, Jews, Muslims, Christians, people who we would say are godless, which are not, they're God-loving in their own way, didn't join churches. They called themselves Christians and Jews, but they didn't join the church. They didn't go to church. And I thought that was not right. You have to be zealous. You have to show God that you're going to His church and encouraging your brothers and sisters, and you've got to be zealous, and you've got to be in the church, because it says you must join my church to be saved. It's not talking about corporate buildings, right? So those people, they learnt in their past lives, because I couldn't seduce them enough, or I couldn't convert them. No matter how much converting you try and do, they have learnt not to join churches, whereas I didn't. So it's an example, I'm saying. Yeah, I'm offering my own life that I'm offering. In that, if you've got some kind of pain or some horrible lesson, whether it's a horrible health or family sort of debts or something like that, rest assured that there will be a gift in it and a valuable thing if you endure and work out what the lesson is. You'll thank the heavens that gift was sent to you. Some of the things that I've had in the past few months ago, I used to cry to the heavens saying, why are you doing this to me? Why are you allowing me to be tortured with this itch? It was demented torture for 10 years while I was doing syncretism since 2009. This itch getting worse and worse. Now, thank the heavens that it was a gift. Because the way I treated all my relationships and destroyed many relationships, I learned how not to. And I'll never do that again. Because I allowed the entities and the demons through the parasites to manipulate my mind. I was an enabler and a facilitator of them. So now I know their tricks. And now I know never to give them any of my energy. So I think that I was tortured with itch for 10 years. I thank the heavens that my relationships were destroyed and that my partners served me some good lessons, by separating themselves from me or whatever, vice versa. I kick them out even, So I thank the heavens that I've had struggles in various other ways. Like most people know, I've been in jail twice, I didn't that was, if you look at it from a sovereign point of view, that was totally and absolutely unjust, because no one was hurt, no one was harmed. It was a paper fictional debt, to go to jail for this and be persecuted by the system. As Jesus said, you'll be persecuted for doing my work. You'll be thrown in jail by people who think they're doing, the work for me.
So I'll ask my last question, and that is, it's a question I asked yesterday. I want to ask it again because I think you had a really important answer to it. And it's, I believe it was either in the Vedas or Srimad Bhagavatam, but some Hindu text. It talks about the different cycles we're in. For instance, the different yugas, the 4 yugas, and it seems like we're coming to a close with the Kali Yuga right now. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on, we had talked about the astral realms and how you can go into those through these DMT experiences, not only through just doing things like ayahuasca and magic mushrooms, things that inhibit those chemicals in our body, but through meditation, and how those two things are related. But I wanted to get into this idea that in Vedic texts, it speaks on how during this time there's always an incarnation of Vishnu who arises to help us from these problems that we're facing right now, all of these tribulations, trials and tribulations that we're going through in this time before we start to awaken, before we enter the golden age. How does that work exactly? Like, is Kalki going to show up on Earth literally? Or if he is a spiritual entity, let's assume that maybe he possibly is. If he was a spiritual entity, would he show up on the Earth physically, and would he be named Kalki? Or how is that energy manifesting?
Okay, so all of these saviors that were incarnated, they weren't incarnated into one man. They incarnated into man, humankind. When Jesus came the first time, he didn't come as a man. He came as a level of consciousness, a step of success in the evolution of humanity. When he comes the second time, it's a different consciousness that it's bringing.
What about like the Nephilim and fallen angels and things like that? That seems to be in a lot of spiritual texts, this idea that higher beings can go into the material realms. Mm-hmm. Do you think that that's somehow connected, or?
Yes it is. So when you see someone turn up and his name's Jesus or Buddha or what have you, he's not the only one. He is Buddha, he is Jesus, but he's not the only one. It's everyone. So when Buddha sits under a tree and gets enlightened, that's not literal. The tree is your nervous system and the spinal column, which holds the most sacred and holy part of your nervous system, the spinal cord, which is 18 inches in a man and 17 in a woman. 18 is a half of 36. The yard, so it's the yardstick. If you're looking for the yardstick, it's the 18 inches long spinal cord going up straight through your cranium from your heart to Aries, right? So that's the tree that you light up. It's a Christmas tree in you. It's got 7 chakras, it's your subtle body. It's got Kundalini energy, and it's activated, and you lift up the Son of Man as Moses lifted up the 2 copper serpents in the wilderness if you want to be born again. All of these themes in the Bible, all of these motifs are telling you how you can do this transcendent process. And your question again quickly, where were we going?
How these entities manifest, if there are such entities.
Okay.
How they, if they're actually alive and conscious in the spiritual realms, or if they're literally just all mythological.
Okay, let me get to that by quickly finishing with the Buddha tree. So Buddha is body. I'm Buddha because I have a body. You're my buddy because you have a body. There's a buddy, there's Buddha, there's a body. It's all the same word. So it's talking about you. You are Buddha who sits under your tree because the tree's in you. That's why your spinal column is called a lumbar. There's 5 above the coccyx, above the sacral, 4 fused bones, 5 fused bones. Then you've got the 5, what? The lumbar. Lumbar is a tree. It's the Merudanda. It's called your spinal column, Merudanda. What's Mount Meru? Well, it's at the center of the flat stationary Earth, the magnetic center. Well, that's Mount Meru, Merudanda. It's called Merudanda, your spine. Exactly. So it's the Yggdrasil tree. Okay, it's got 7 levels. Down red is hell. Up blue sky, blue chakra, is the sky, heaven. And here is green chakra. So we're on the green plane. We look up, we've got a blue chakra, blue sky. We look down, there's red hill. So you see your body is that tree. So when your body, Buddha, is meditating under the tree, that means you sit there and you meditate in your tree, under your tree, and you become enlightened in your body, Buddha. So we have to learn how to read the scriptures, really. And yes, those entities, they do come into this realm. They do, and the gods. I'm not denying this. I'm not denying any phenomena in the scriptures. All I'm explaining is how to understand the scriptures. Yes, there will be some dude who heals people and his name will be Jesus, and he might even come again. It's not what the Bible is talking about. If it happens, it'll be a great coincidence. Because rest assured, the people are waiting for Jesus to come in the cloud. Oh,
it's a cloudy day. Let's look out for Jesus, shall we? 2,000 years ago, they said he was coming. There's a cloud. He's coming in the clouds. You really think people that there's going to be a dude standing up in the clouds and he's like cloud surfing? He's like, oh, I'm back, guys! Wow, it's been 2,000 years. You've been waiting, haven't you? It's ridiculous. It's like a fairy tale or like a nursery rhyme. It's so childish.
But wouldn't something
full of
like
truths.
Wouldn't something like the beginning of the universe have to almost be like a fairy tale in order to come into existence?
Yeah, because if you had to write out how it came into existence, you would occupy the high heaven in volume, as it says in the Gospel. If everything that the Lord did, it says in the Gospel of John, if every word of the Lord were recorded and all his deeds, this book would be voluminous to the high heaven. In other words, it's telling you, it's not literal. It's a story. That's why they call it a gospel. You cannot reify a gospel. You can't do it. It can't be reified. You can't reify a shadow. See your shadow there? That's not you. It's your shadow. You can't make it alive. You can't say, hey, shadow, piss off and leave this guy alone, will you? Because you're always there. Go, shoo. It's dependent on you. It's not a thing. It's not an autonomous entity. So you can't reify it. A gospel is not a real autonomous historical reality. It's a book about truth. Not to be reified, but to make it real in your life because it's benefic. So I reckon we can leave it on that. No, what do you reckon?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So thank you, guys from the. Do you want to be in the thing? Yes or no? You want to? No. So you've got a few shy people to the left here, but look, thanks, guys. We've got a couple of tables here of some of the people who came to the Sacramento presentation yesterday, and again, Kevin's behind the camera. He's the one who did the San Francisco interview, and so far you're the only one that's put everything up. There's about 5, 6, 7 presentations that is going to be months away that I've done. A couple of days I'll be leaving for Costa Rica on the 6th of November, then Mexico, then I come back possibly to Oregon or California. I may have to go to Oregon to do some stuff with the incident that happened 3 months ago. So, but I'm just saying that to folks because I could even be going to Kentucky or, I don't know, Europe. But this is my last few days, and I just want to say thank you for coming. You guys were...
No, thank you, Santos. I really appreciate it. Before you finish up, I was hoping that maybe we could continue this interview another day. I know we have a couple more days together. I have a lot more questions. I was hoping to tie up a little bit, maybe more, tie up a little bit more of the idea of these DMT experiences to like the material world. I think that's an important topic that not a lot of people are touching on.
Yeah.
Add a lot to it.
I've got experience in that too, so I can talk a lot on
Amazing.
that. You're driving me to Los Angeles tomorrow, so we could probably even do something in the car if you've got a camera. Yeah, we use up the time. I like to use up every little minute of time while I'm traveling. That's why I love Kevin, because he's got the camera there ready always.
Or maybe Tuesday night in LA, we'll arrange something.
You're going to be there too, and so is Ember, the three of us.
Sounds great.
It'd be nice.
Sounds great.
Thanks a lot, Santos.
It'd be my best time in Los Angeles ever. All right, guys.
Looking forward to it.
Cheers.
Till next time.
See you, syncretists.